The Trump administration has confirmed to a federal judge that they will be issuing partial SNAP benefit payments for the month of November. Now, this was widely regarded as the move that the Trump administration would take after the judge gave them an option to fully fund the SNAP benefit program or partially fund it, but they had to let the judge know by noon today, Monday, November 3rd. And well, they chose to partially fund it because they would rather continue to be cruel. And yes, they can move money around even without congressional approval because they've already shown they don't care that Congress has the power of the purse. They're going to do whatever they want to advance Trump policies. And the only reason, even as the media is now lauding their decision to push forward with issuing SNAP payments, the only reason they're doing it is that a federal judge, compelled them legally to do so. So don't buy into Trump is saving the day, because he's not. A federal judge forced the Trump administration to issue these payments, and they're only going to be partial payments. So SNAP beneficiaries are still not going to receive the benefits that they would normally receive because Republicans continue to be cruel to American citizens to give tax breaks to billionaires and corporations.
You know what's one of the worst things about this government shutdown is the fact that when the government opens, it will not be because pressure was applied due to the fact that men, women, and children are going hungry and starving. It'll be due to the fact that billionaires and their billion-dollar corporations start losing money. That is the country we live in and the country that people like Donald Trump and his administration favor and will listen to. They will not listen to the cries of the people who are out here actively hungry, having their EBT program, SNAP, everything cut off. They will not listen to that. But as soon as CEOs of major companies start coming to them and the buddies and the ones who are donating to this ballroom of Donald Trump's, those are the people that they will listen to because that's all they care about. It's all about the money. It's not about the citizens. This man was never elected to take care of the people, Republican or Democrat. I hope all those MAGA people hear that. Republican or Democrat, he does not care. Unless you are a rich person, a billionaire, you do not even come on his radar. That is when the government will reopen, is when those people start squawking and squeaking so loud that they're not going to be able to tune it out. But the millions and millions and millions of people that are affected by this government shutdown on all levels, not just SNAP and EBT, but especially those, because hunger is going to be the biggest driving force, they do not care. It falls on deaf ears.
Over 100 federal judges just kicked Trump in the teeth by rejecting his cruel mass deportation detention policies, including 12 judges he appointed there himself. They slammed the Trump administration's new draconian policies around immigration that effectively enable ICE to detain whoever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, regardless of how long they've lived in the U.S. or if they've committed a crime. This sweeping mandatory detention that Trump implemented has turned over 30 years of work from the Justice Department, stripping immigrants of their basic human rights or even allowing them to ask for a bond while they figure things out. Now, according to Politico, judges across the country are saying enough is enough. The backlash has been unbelievable. Federal courts from coast to coast have ruled Trump's interpretation of the immigration law is just flat out wrong. Under Trump's twisted interpretation, anyone living in the U.S., even those who have been here legally for decades, could be classified as an applicant for admission, making them a subject to mandatory detention. This results in a legal human rights disaster. Families separated, breadwinners vanished, immigrants showing up to court for routine check-ins and then abruptly detained and vanished with no trace. Even ICE insiders were reportedly overwhelmed, describing chaotic directives and unmanageable caseloads as Trump's team ordered to speed up deportations at any cost. It's not just Democrats calling out Trump's cruelty. It's also his own appointed judges. Share your thoughts in the comment section and follow me for more.
Uh-oh, more bad news for Donald Trump, and not just for Trump, but for the Republican Party in general. We've got some new polling data from NBC, and it is not looking good for the orange buffoon or for his fascist personality cult, also known as the Republican Party. Here's the headline of this NBC article. Frustration with Trump gives Democrats an opening a year before the midterms. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's a pretty lengthy piece, but I will link to it in the video description below, so please check that out. But I do want to read some select passages of this. So let me begin. Democrats have an early lead in next year's battle for control of Congress amid an ongoing government shutdown, as more voters say President Donald Trump has not lived up to their expectations on several major issues that propelled him back to the White House in 2024. Around 2/3 of registered voters say the Trump administration has fallen short on the economy and the cost of living, and a majority say he's fallen short on changing business as usual in Washington. Meanwhile, the issue of protecting democracy and constitutional rights are top issues to voters alongside costs, and a majority of voters believe he's done more to undermine the Constitution than to defend it. How anyone could think anything different is beyond me at this point, but whatever. The president's overall approval rating in the survey sits at 43%, a 4-point decrease since March, while 55% disapprove of his job performance. Now, when you hear that 43%, you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. 43% approve of this piece of shit? That's way too high. And it is. But what's important here is that it's 4 points lower than it was in March in this poll. Now, I've seen a lot of other polls that have him, you know, at lower approval ratings with this, with many polls showing him in the upper 30s. So I don't know exactly where it sits at, but what's important is the overall trend. And the overall trend has been down, 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 including in this NBC poll. Now, here is the money quote from this article. This is the most important takeaway, in my opinion. 1 year before the 2026 midterm elections, Democrats lead Republicans in the fight for Congress by 8 points, 50% to 42%, the largest lead for either party on the congressional ballot in the NBC News poll since the 2018 midterms. Democrats had a negligible 1-point edge, 48 to 47, back in March. So again, another important data point that is all going in the wrong direction for Trump and his cult. And that is huge. An 8-point gap a year before the election on the generic congressional ballot, that's big. And it is the biggest gap since the 2018 midterms, which was a huge landslide wave election for Democrats. That was Trump's first midterm election, and it went horribly for him. And if we repeated something like that next year, then Republicans will definitely lose control of the House by quite a large margin, and the Senate might even flip. So definitely shouldn't be counting our chickens before they hatch or anything like this, but this is definitely moving in the right direction. Let me read a little bit more. What we know is that this is an electorate that remains deeply unhappy with the status quo. And see, that's the thing. Donald Trump got elected last year in large part because people perceived things as going in the wrong direction.
So you've got the mentalities between the parties, and you've got the mentalities between the presidencies, no matter what's going on through COVID or through a financial crisis or whatever. The leadership of this country has an opportunity every step to go out of their way to make life better or make life worse. Now, the jackass administration just had the USDA on top of the government shutdown and all of the payments and everything from the USDA that they're in charge of freezing and screwing up everybody's lives and stuff like that. They did make time during a shutdown to send a letter to the small business owners that are food service type of places like restaurants, which hits home for me because as a restaurant owner over COVID, I gave a lot of tabs. I fed a lot of people knowing that I'd never see that money again. And when they ordered a small and they had a family, but they ordered a small because they only had a certain amount of money, I would make a large and say, oh, I'm sorry, it was an order mistake, and then refuse when they try and give more money. I did that on a regular basis, which could have been part of my financial demise when it came to that, with a little help from COVID. But the fact is, that's part of caring about the community you're serving. But the Trump administration and the USDA just sent notices to restaurants and things like that, saying that if they accept food stamps and stuff like that, and they're used to taking care, doing that, the letter basically says if you upgrade the order or give them extra, you will be in violation of federal law. The USDA told business owners that deal in food service products that if they show kindness and try and help and give an upgrade or an extra, or here's some extra fries, or try and be a little nice, which is what most people who give a shit about the communities they serve do on a daily basis anyway. But now, if you do that, it's a crime. This is the administration who threw a great Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago. Everything's fake gold plated there. The real gold is in the White House. While 40 million people get kicked off of food assistance the next day. That's how in touch with this country this administration is. They flipped the switch on the SNAP benefit cards for the machines. So now they can't even use what they had, what they didn't spend yet in the prior, in these specific machines. The court has forced them to release the emergency SNAP funds. They have a day or two to do that. We will see. Telling restaurants and telling private companies, you'll be violating the law. Are we great yet? Seriously. Republicans. Anything you want to assume is fake news, look it up first. And you can say whatever the hell you want. This is what we're doing. This is the America. The ICE raids, the files aren't enough. This is just in addition. Tearing down the East Wing isn't enough. What's it going to be? Special education, Board of Education. We know he loves the undereducated. Not all of us choose to be that. You be happy in your bubble, boo. When you're ready to put America first, start doing your homework. Start fighting for democracy and the rest of us. We'll be here waiting for you, because we've been fighting for you the whole time.
All right, happy Monday morning, everybody. It is November 3rd. I know that on Friday, I haven't gone back and read the decisions. I didn't really do much news last week. I took a week off, but I know there were a couple of court decisions that came down on Friday afternoon ordering the Trump administration to use a discretionary fund that was put in place after the last government shutdown in order to fund SNAP benefits, EBT, food stamps. In case of a government shutdown, we are a month and 3 days into this current government shutdown, which is on pace to become the longest in U.S. history, beating the record that was set during the first Trump administration in 2018 going into 2019. There's an account set aside with like $6 billion in it to fund SNAP benefits, food stamps, in case of a government shutdown. So people who qualify for those programs wouldn't go without food. A huge number of those people being children. And Donald Trump and Republicans wanting to maximize the suffering of Americans who disagree with them politically, or Americans who are sick and or poor, because they just want all those people to just die, has thus far refused to use those funds that are set aside specifically for that purpose, that they have access to right now, even if the government is shut down. So two courts stepped in on Friday and ordered them to release those funds and fund SNAP benefits, at least in the short term, until a deal can get worked out on the government shutdown. A few things. First of all, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit whether the government's open or not. He doesn't care. He has no motivation to reopen the government. He's just doing what he's doing through executive orders, and just by doing things, and nobody is stopping him. He doesn't care if the government is open or not. If the government is closed, that gives his little buddy at OMB, Project 2025 author Russell Vought, the ability to just start slashing government spending left and right and firing federal workers, which Russ Vought is doing. So there's that. But, you know, so we're starting to see, I saw two videos this morning on TikTok of people saying, you know, they're waiting in line 3 to 5 hours at the food bank because their SNAP benefits didn't come through. And, you know, people are showing videos of how long the lines are, how many people are in line. And they're almost all white. You know, the media and MAGA have been furiously spinning this narrative over the last 4 or 5 days that the only people in the United States who get SNAP benefits are black people. And the majority of people in this country who collect SNAP benefits are white people. And something like 80% of people who receive SNAP benefits live in counties that Donald Trump won in the 2024 election. So this is going to start hurting Trump voters who, I swear to God, think that SNAP benefits and EBT benefits are different than food stamps. They think they're going to get their food stamps, and that SNAP benefits and EBT benefits only go to black people. They are that stupid. I said in a video earlier this morning, they thought that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare were two different things months and months ago. They thought that those two things were two different things. They thought that black people got Obamacare. They thought that white people got the Affordable Care Act. They really believe that stuff. Yeah. So, but then I saw an article, and I went and did a little digging, that Walmart has stepped in, and as well as companies like Kroger, and I think even Amazon, because they have, Amazon owns Whole Foods. Some of these grocery companies are stepping in and saying to the government, get your shit together, and fund this program and reopen government, because it's going to cost us money, these corporations. And so I looked up of the billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that our government funds for SNAP benefits and food stamps, 25% of that money goes to Walmart. Walmart gets 1 out of every 4 food stamp dollars spent in the United States, because people take those benefits and they go to Walmart. Walmart, who, along with Amazon and other major corporations in the United States, have full-time workers who they pay so little that their full-time employees qualify for SNAP benefits and food stamps. So Walmart is getting subsidized on both ends, and Amazon and other major grocery companies. They benefit from people spending food stamp dollars in their stores or on their websites. I don't know if you can use them on websites, but you can go to Whole Foods, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Kroger, you can go to Giant Eagle, Ralph's, and all of these places. They're benefiting from SNAP benefits subsidizing their bottom line, their gross income as a corporation. And they're also benefiting, the federal government is basically subsidizing their decision to pay their workers so little that their workers qualify for food stamps and SNAP benefits. So what they pay their employees is being subsidized by the federal government. Their bottom line, their profits are being subsidized by the federal government from food stamp money coming in. And again, you know, it's like but making the minimum wage $15 an hour is socialism or something. I don't know. First of all, $15 an hour is roughly 30 grand a year. Where in the hell are you going to survive in the United States making only 30 grand a year? I mean, I think the low end of the scale at Walmart is like 11 or 12 bucks an hour. And if you're working at Walmart full time, making 11 or 12 bucks an hour, you qualify for food stamps. So it's like they make the decision to pay their employees that small amount of wage, which is then subsidized by the federal government, which is a direct benefit to Walmart because Walmart doesn't have to pay their employees the money in salary or hourly rate that those employees are collecting from the federal government in the form of food stamps and SNAP benefits. Same with Amazon, same with Kroger, same with all these big companies. So the wages that they pay their employees are subsidized by the federal government and our tax dollars. Their bottom line, their profit margin is subsidized by the federal government because 1 out of every $4 spent for food stamps and SNAP benefits goes to Walmart because that's where people shop. So you want to talk about a welfare queen in the United States in November of 2025, start with Walmart and Amazon. They're the biggest welfare queens out there. I don't see any MAGA chuds making videos about that or about these companies. They just want to make their racist videos about black people on food stamps and think they did something, apart from just showing us, again, how incredibly dumb, gullible, and racist they really are.